like to demonstrate some basic level bunkai for Kusanku kata, using the kata as a reference point from which to study the basic applications of the techniques contained within. We're going to start with our opening movement in the kata, which is the two-handed spreading and striking movement. Keeping in mind, when being attacked from the front, we don't want to keep our body in a straight position to an attacker. We always want to use the tai sabak, or the body shifting, and the ashi sabak, the body movement, to position ourselves properly against an attacker. So where the kata uses a reference point centered in this fashion, we will be stepping in as attacker, blocking, striking underneath into the ribs and to the kidney area. Okay? Consequently, we can also move in different positions. We can retreat depending on the depth of attack. A strong charging attack, we can retreat away, striking to the same areas, retreating underneath, taking the knees or the groin. Also, with such an attack, we can move to the sides, always being careful to watch a second attack. I'd like to go over this section of the kata, which can work against a number of different attacks. From this, again, we're going to work from a head strike. Okay? Retreating, striking to the neck, to the carotid artery. Okay? We use our front kick depending on the distance our opponent is from us. Groin, knees. If I'm at a further distance, I can strike higher into the face. So, with this bunkai, we are going to retreat, strike, kick. The drawing hand will be taking the wrist. The high hand will be doing a strike into, again, the carotid artery and also behind the occipital ridge, drawing down in this fashion. Once again, hey. The next portion is going to be working as a reference point the chambered position, side kick and back fist into an elbow strike. Most people will assume that because in the kata that the back fist and side kick are at the same time, that they have to be used that way when you're applying them. Also, there seems to be no reference of a defense with this movement. Well, we're going to use as our defensive position the actual shifting. As a straight attack is coming into my midsection, we shift back and draw. The chambering position being here. Drawing, holding with our retreating hand, back fist strike, side kick, and following in with the elbow. Your target areas are dependent upon your opponent's position. If my opponent is taller and I happen to be holding the hand in a higher position, I may find an opening into the ribs or into the kidney area. If I happen to be holding the arm in a lower position and the opponent bends over, I'll find that the head is a more acceptable target. Next, we're going to work this aspect of the kata where we're using multiple blocks on different angles. This is found in a number of different Okinawan kata, and it's often misconstrued for being simply defenses. Blocking, and then moving off to a second attacker and blocking there, while we've never fully addressed the first attack. We're going to show a few different applications for the same sets of moves. First, just using the first two movements, we're going to perform a kensetsu waza, or a joint locking technique. As a head attack, blocking first, using the second blocking motion to perform udegarame, or a forearm and capture. Taking the same movement, blocking, and doing a smaller movement to work into a wrist lock, or a nikyo type of attack. Same movement, same concept, Two different angles, two different depths. First to the elbow and forearm. Second to the wrist. Furthermore, we can also utilize those two movements in conjunction with the next movement, but utilizing them against the same attacker. An initial strike to the head comes into a strike utilizing the second block as a strike to the neck. My next movement, which would be this way, assumedly to a new attacker, can be used as a form of a throw for this attacker. Coming in and using in that fashion. Side head strike. So there we can see two different kansetsuwaza or joint locking techniques and a single atemiwaza or striking technique being used for the same series of 2 or 3 movements. I'd like to address one of the final movements in the kata, which is from this two-handed block, a scooping and sweeping motion back to our final ready position, which is often construed as a final salutation and or closing of the kata. We're actually going to use it as a very effective catch and takedown type of technique. From this portion of the kata, again using these angles of the kata as a reference, I turn pivot to an attacker that's coming from my right side. Attacker comes in with a right leg front kick. I utilize my first movement of scooping to catch the leg. I use the second movement of stepping to use osotogari and take the leg from underneath. My final position, which is this in the kata, can be used to strike and finish my attack. Again, using the kata as a reference, pivot, look, scooping, sweeping, finishing. From an application standpoint, all based on the same movement at the finish of the kata.